In the dim glow of a flickering lantern, imagine a ledger opening its pages aged, its ink faded, but the numbers inside, they still echo through the modern world. Because hidden in those figures is a story of how an island kingdom, small and shrouded in fog, built one of the richest empires in human history, and how the world's first powerful banks helped shape a global order that survives even today. It begins not with triumph, but with fear. In the late 1600s, Britain was not yet a superpower. It was fractured, unsure, and nearly bankrupt from years of war. European rivals like Spain, France, and the Dutch were stronger, richer, and far more influential. The British crown faced a terrifying reality. If it didn't reinvent itself, the nation could collapse under its debts. And then, something unusual happened. Merchants, goldsmiths, aristocrats, and political thinkers came together with an idea so radical, so dangerous, that even its supporters called it a gamble of national fate. They proposed a new kind of institution, one that could create money not by mining gold, but by trusting promises. A bank that would turn government debt into national strength. A bank that would change everything. The year was 1694, and the Bank of England was born. At first glance, it was only a solution to a crisis. Britain desperately needed funds to fight a war against France, and private lenders were no longer willing to pour money into a king's empty treasury. But something subtle, almost invisible to ordinary citizens, occurred at that moment. The bank didn't simply hold money. It created it. Through banknotes, loans, and the magic of fractional reserve banking, the Bank of England invented the foundation of modern finance, the power to multiply money through credit. This wasn't just banking, it was a kind of financial alchemy, and it became the engine that would drive Britain's astonishing rise. As credit flowed, ships were built, armies were paid, and factories were funded. The empire began to grow not just from military conquests, but from a deliberate financial strategy. Money, or rather the ability to create it, became Britain's greatest weapon. Over the next century, a powerful pattern emerged. Every time Britain needed to expand its influence into India, Africa, the Caribbean, or China, it turned to its financial institutions. The Bank of England and its allies enabled massive trading companies to raise colossal funds. They fueled the expansion of the East India Company, which would become arguably the most powerful corporate empire in history. They underwrote risky voyages, ensured global fleets, and stabilized the currency so that British merchants could dominate international markets. Behind this entire system was a principle that was both brilliant and brutal. Wealth could be extracted from faraway lands using borrowed money today to gain real resources tomorrow. With every loan approved in a London office, a ripple spread across the globe. A single signature on a loan document might mean a new ship leaving port, which could mean spices from India, sugar from the Caribbean, or cotton from America. The bank's credit allowed Britain to take financial risks on a scale no other nation could even dream of matching. But this incredible wealth came with a dark, shadowed side. Many of the industries that enriched Britain, plantations, mines, and colonial monopolies relied on labor systems that were brutally exploitative and, for long periods, built on the horrors of slavery. The immense profits from these human tragedies flowed back into London's financial system, strengthening the very institutions that funded the empire's relentless expansion. It was a cycle of profit and pain, a moral catastrophe fueling an economic miracle. And all the while, the invisible machinery of banking kept turning. Government bonds became Britain's secret superpower. Foreign nations feared British armies, but their economists feared British debt. Why? Because every pound the government borrowed, the Bank of England could leverage, and every interest payment gave investors, many of them wealthy elites, a very personal reason to support the empire's continuous growth. The richer the empire became, the more essential the bank grew. By the 1700s, Britain had mastered something no other empire had: the ability to finance war indefinitely. French generals might win battles, Spanish fleets might conquer seas, but Britain could raise funds again and again, reinventing its military strength every decade. Wars became contests of endurance, and endurance belonged to the nation that controlled credit. This shift literally changed the course of history. During the Napoleonic Wars, Britain spent unimaginable sums, far more than its entire GDP. Yet, because global investors trusted the Bank of England and the British state, they kept. Napoleon famously mocked Britain as a nation of shopkeepers. But he underestimated something far more dangerous: a nation of bankers. And the bankers were winning. Behind every British victory, behind every new colony claimed, behind every trade route secured by the Royal Navy, stood a financial system humming with relentless energy, a system that could turn debt into dominance. By the 1800s, the empire's wealth looked unstoppable. London became the world's financial capital, the beating heart of a global economic machine. Its banks funded railways in India, telegraph lines across Africa, and even the morally reprehensible opium shipments into China. Sterling became the global currency of trust, the dollar of its day. The empire was no longer just a political entity, was a financial one. But every machine, no matter how powerful, strains over time. And in the shadows of the 20th century, the world began to change. The immense cost of 2 world wars, the rise of powerful independence movements across the colonies, and the emergence of the United States all chipped away at Britain's global dominance. The empire shrank, territories broke free, flags were lowered for the last time, yet the financial legacy remained. Because even as the political empire dissolved, the financial empire endured in a different form. The Bank of England continued to shape global economics. British banking systems became the template for modern central banks all across the world. The financial tools invented centuries earlier: government bonds, central banking, paper currency. Credit creation became the backbone of today's global economy. And perhaps the greatest twist of all: the wealth Britain built still circulates today, not in the form of gold or ships or colonies, but in ideas, in the very architecture of our financial world: debt-backed currency, international markets, investment networks, multinational corporations. The empire's fortunes were forged through systems that every major economy now relies on. If you follow the money long enough, you begin to see a pattern. The British Empire didn't just conquer land. It conquered financial imagination. It rewrote the rules of wealth, turning credit into power, debt into strategy, and banking into a global weapon. Its methods shaped capitalism itself, influencing how nations compete, how markets behave, and how wealth is created and controlled to this very day. And when you hear the quiet rustle of modern bank or watch numbers shift on a digital screen, you're witnessing the echo of a transformation that began centuries ago in a candlelit room with a nation on the edge of collapse. From fear was born a bank. From that bank grew an empire. And from that empire emerged the modern world, a world still living in the shadow of the financial engine that changed everything. A world built, at least in part, on the mysterious, powerful legacy of how the British Empire created its wealth, and how one bank helped shape the fate of nations. Thanks for watching. If you found this journey into financial history fascinating, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more stories about the forces that shape our world.